How does functional programming achieve reuse? Hi, my name is Eric Normand, and these are my thoughts on functional programming. So, I think that the way functional programming achieves reuse is a different way from how we would traditionally think of reuse. And it's that we are aiming for very small components. I think what happens in a lot of programmers, this happens to me, okay, I'll frame it in the first person. I really love it when I get to reuse a huge thing for some other purpose. It feels like making something more complex with more conditionals, more if statements, actually makes it more reusable. Look, this function has so many parameters. I can use it for so many things. And it feels like you're reusing all of this code. But the truth is that it actually becomes harder to reuse with more parameters, with more configuration, with more methods. If it's a class, it becomes harder to reuse because each one is adding complexity and each one is making the thing more fit for a more and more specific purpose. What functional programmers tend to do, and this is totally possible in object-oriented programming, by the way. It just doesn't seem to be the trend that people are following until FP is we'll talk about that in a second. But what people do is they make tiny little things. I'm talking about super tiny, like the const cell. It's got two fields and it's got basically two operations, the two getters, right? And just like the first and the rest. And it has a constructor, and that's it. And now with that, you can create a whole host of data structures. Or we'll look at something like the sequence abstraction in Clojure, and that creates a whole, it's very simple, it's like a const cell, except it's more of an abstraction. That creates a whole ecosystem of things that abide by this tiny little protocol. Or the tuple. The tuple, it's so simple. It's so reusable because it does almost nothing, right? And what happens in object-oriented programming, and this is, you know, here's the thing. When I talk about object-oriented programming, in the back of my mind, there's a little avatar of Alan Kay. And he says, wait, that's not what I meant. All right, so I'm not talking about what Alan Kay meant. I'm talking about how people practice it today. And what you see is things getting bigger and bigger. Classes have more parameters for configuration. They have more methods instead of getting smaller. Okay, and so you have these things like a giant person class that your company uses, and like this is supposed to be used across all the software at your company, but it actually becomes harder to use, less reusable, less usable by the different parts of your software because it's been customized to each department. So the way you make something more reusable is actually by making it simpler, by making it have fewer moving parts. And so this is why functional programming at the moment is having a big influence, I think, because we're actually the ones who are showing, look, you don't need this whole like abstract class hierarchy with all these single method classes or interfaces. All you need really is a function. right? A lambda. And so Java has added that in. And if you look at a lot of the classes that came along with Java 8 were very simple. The interfaces that came with it were just so simple. They were just like, this is what we need. A function of 2 arguments, a string and a number, and it returns a string. And you just have this very granular approach. You start with these little pieces at the bottom and you can build them up. And that's how it works. Now, here's the thing. This is why it works. Okay, it feels really good. So, this is why it doesn't work. Why the OO approach doesn't work. It feels so good to like take this thing and reuse it, this giant thing. It feels awesome when you found a new use for this big thing, because you say, oh, I just used this whole thing. The thing is, it's more rare. It's harder to do. So it feels more like you're a master of the thing and you're getting more effectiveness out of it, except it happens more rarely. Whereas think of something like the tuple. You use that all the time. Or a simple hash map. You can use that all the time. And so it doesn't even feel special. And it's such a small little thing. You don't, but then when you look at how much code you're actually reusing, it is significant. The reuse happens, the way it works is it's logarithmic. It's a tree, right? So you have these little tiny things on the leaves of the tree, and you build something a little bit bigger out of these 2 simple parts, and that thing is still pretty simple in itself, so that's reusable. And so it gets so the thing at the top is reusing this huge tree of stuff. Whereas in object-oriented programming, you make one big class and hope to reuse it. But it's not made out of those little parts. What's the likelihood that you got that class right? Right? It's one level. It's like one giant thing as opposed to thousands of little things that get put together. What's the probability that you're going to be able to reuse that giant thing versus this very simple thing with one use, with one purpose? It's very unlikely that you'll get to reuse this big thing. And so even if like at the top of your tree in functional programming, with this tree of like stuff built out of simpler parts and simpler parts and simpler parts, the top of the tree might be wrong because it's so big. Look how big it is. But if it's wrong, you can just go down one level of the tree and all those things are a little bit more likely to be right for their purpose. You go down one level again, those things are even more likely to be right for their purpose. So even if you get it wrong, you can just go down a level and you're at a better place to find reusable parts. All right, I've been ranting too much about this. Let me know what you think. I'm at Eric Normand on Twitter. You can also email me at eric@lispcast.com. It's all about the reuse. That's how you gain efficiencies of scale. As your code base gets bigger, you want more stuff to be able to reuse. You don't want to slow down. Anyway, get in touch with me, follow me on Twitter, email me, and I'll see you later. Bye.